Members, it's the appointed time and we have a quorum. This is the meeting of the Bills Committee on Electronic Traffic Enforcement Miscellaneous Amendments Bill 2023. Now, may I invite the government officials to enter the conference room. In accordance with Rule 83A of the Rules of Procedures, if you have any direct or indirect pecuniary interest relating to the topics of discussion today, please disclose the nature of the interest before you speak.
好，如果官員咧準備好咧，我哋就請
May I invite the government officials to walk us through the bill? Thank you, Chairman. Good morning, members. We are to scrutinize the Electronic Traffic Enforcement Bill 2023. We will make use of technology to combat traffic offenses. This is one of the initiatives that falls under the Smart City Blueprint, and the Transport Advisory Committee promulgated a report to propose suggestions to solve the issues of traffic congestions. One of the suggestions is to adopt technology to combat traffic offenses and contraventions. The objective of the bill is to make use of electronic means to deliver fixed penalty notices to meet the objectives set out by the government. Currently, we are unable to deliver fixed penalty notices FPN by electronic means. So we have to go through this legislative amendment if we are to allow for electronic delivery of FPNs, to allow the police to make use of SMS and email to issue FPNs to drivers. And we will be authorized or empowered to collect e-contact means from members of the public. But we will retain the paper-based FPN delivery, while the police will also issue FPNs by electronic means so that members of the public can make use of it or make use to it. Cap 237 and Cap 240 in relation to speeding and unlawfully entering box junction and so on. For contraventions and offenses that fall under these two legislations, electronic delivery of FPNs will be allowed. Also, we will repeal the form under the laws to empower the Commissioner of Police to specify the content of the form. And we will also empower the Commissioner of Transport to collect e-contact means from members of the public. To allow members of the public to get used to the amendment, we will roll out this traffic e-enforcement thematic portal, and we will allow drivers to engage agents to make payment to the FPNs, and we will allow the commercial drivers to scan QR code in order to check their FPNs online. The Transport Department will also roll out publicity campaigns to teach members of the public how they can access the portal, and we will not put the link to payment on the SMS and emails in relation to the FPNs. Now we will invite the police to walk us through the bill by aid of PowerPoint slides. Afterwards, we will welcome questions from members. Thank you. Members, if you'd like to ask questions, you can press the button. Now we invite the representative from the police, Mr. Crusade Yao. Thank you. There are three parts to my presentation today. First, background, and then objectives and proposed amendments. Lastly, I will talk about the anticipated benefits of the amendment. First, I will talk about the existing situation of enforcement. There are two pieces of legislation involved, including Cap 237. This is mainly related to illegal parking. The penalty of FPN that fall under Cap 237 is $320. We call this FPN Form 1. That is, Notice of Particulars of Alleged Fixed Penalty Traffic Offense or Contravention. Currently, the delivery of fixed penalty notices can only be done manually. The person liable will be the owner of the vehicles, but as for moving offense, the person liable should be the driver. Currently, only hard copy notices can be delivered or issued, and the prescribed forms are specified in legislation. If there is any amendment that needed to be made to the prescribed forms, including adding or deducting some of the offenses or contraventions and the change to payment methods, we have to seek approval from the Legislative Council. So it's not very flexible if we want to make set changes. We also have a Form 2. After receipt of Form 1, if the drivers or owners do not make the penalty payment in time, then Form 2 will be sent to the driver or vehicle owner that they should make penalty payment. Similar with Form 1, Form 2 can only be delivered by post, and the prescribed forms are specified in legislation. Now let me show you the sample of fixed penalty notice of Cap 237. There are 27 contraventions covered. On the bottom right-hand corner, you can see the amount, $320. And behind this notice, the 21 contraventions are listed out in both Chinese and English. The penalty for all these contraventions is $320. Over the left, you can see the details, including the registration mark and the location of the contravention. And we also have a Cap 240 FPN that relates to other offenses, including speeding, picking up or settling down passengers in restricted zones. Over the left, you can see a tick. It may be blurred. Different penalty levels are set out. We have 71 offenses. The lightest penalty or fine is $230, and all the way to the left, $1,000. For $1,000, we're talking about overloading, overloading will pose danger to other road users. So the penalty amounts to $1,320, $450. So we have different levels of penalty for offenses. So different penalty level will be set for different offenses committed. On the back of the notice, the 71 offenses are listed out in both Chinese and English. As mentioned, we can only deliver paper FPN currently. So for frontline officers, when they issue these notices, and when our office colleagues are handling these FPNs, manual processing are involved. For traditional FPN, it has to be written by hand, and then we need to engage civil colleagues to input the data into our system. The processes are time-consuming and involve considerable manpower. When frontline officers are putting the details on the paper FPN, there could be problems or mistakes. As a result, the FPN would become invalid. So paper FPN will give rise to human errors. Because of that, under the existing legislative framework, we have made some improvement. In 2020, March, we have given our frontline officers mobile phones with mobile applications. Our frontline officers are also equipped with portable printer that weigh about 700 grams so that they can print FPN on site. The mobile applications allow our frontline officers to take photos that will constitute as proof for the 21 contraventions. When there is disputes, the frontline officers can show these photos to the owners or drivers to ease conflicts. But the printer is quite heavy. For the $320 FPN, the texture of the paper is different from that of the other FPN that relates to scheduled offenses. So our colleagues have to change paper when they are printing different forms. So Form 1 can only be issued by printing. If we want to include more modes of payment, we need to amend the legislation. Issuance of FPNs are now not digitalized, so drivers cannot access or check online their FPNs received and payment situation or settle penalties through additional electronic payment method. For non-stopper cases, you can see a photo over the right, the orange box. On highways, our colleagues from the Transport Department have installed some traffic enforcement cameras. Because mostly these cameras are on highways, so it's difficult for us to stop the vehicles for the sake of safety. That is why we need to do verification. We need to locate the registration mark and the registered owner of the vehicle. After locating the vehicle owner in accordance with Section 63 of Cap 374, we will ask the owner of the vehicle to provide information about the driver of the vehicle. Because as mentioned, speeding is the responsibility of the driver of the vehicle instead of the owner. So we need to obtain information from the owner as to who the driver was. But there is limitations. If the photos are not taken by traffic enforcement camera, but by laser guns during blocks on site, FPN can be issued at the scene by the officers. If not, the FPNs can only be delivered by post. Under existing legal regime, the owner can only inform the police by writing of the identity of the driver. So there is some forms of some limitations because the postal process is time consuming.
過程
The postal process, it's time consuming and it costs taxpayers money. Part 2, I'll talk about the objectives and the proposed amendments. At the beginning, our colleagues issued handwritten FPNs. As mentioned in 2020, we gave out portable printers to our police officers as well as smartphones to them to enhance the enforcement procedure. You may have noticed that in recent years, our enforcement has become more efficient. We hope that after the bill is passed, our police officers can issue FPNs by electronic means to vehicle owners or drivers. So for the proposed legislative amendments, first we hope that electronic delivery of FPNs can be allowed, which cover SMS or email notice. We will build a dedicated thematic portal so that vehicle owners or drivers can check the notices online, which cover all the information in Form 1, that is the conventional physical form. Secondly, we propose to repeal the prescribed forms, and we propose to specify the format of the FPNs. We will specify the information or particulars that need to be included in the FPNs so that vehicle owners or drivers can follow up on the notices. Lastly, we hope to authorize the Commissioner of Police to specify the formats of FPNs. If needed, we will provide more ways for vehicle owners and drivers to pay their penalties to allow more flexibility. Also, under the proposed legislative amendments, we hope that electronic delivery can be allowed for issuing notice requiring identification of driver under CAPS 374. We will upload the online notice in the thematic portal so that the registered vehicle owner or the drivers can see the notice online. More importantly, the vehicle owners or drivers concerned may make a reply through the thematic portal. They may also reply in writing. We are allowing more flexibility for the vehicle owners and drivers by doing so. Also, we propose to empower the Commissioner for Transport to collect mobile phone number or email addresses of the registered vehicle owners and driving license holders. Then we can issue Form 1 and Form 2 through the e-contacts provided. The Commissioner for Transport will require vehicle owners or driving license holders to inform the Transport Department within 72 hours upon any changes of mobile phone numbers or email addresses. Finally, I'd like to talk about the anticipated benefits. As you may be aware, we issue handwritten FPNs. We also print out electronic FPNs by portable printers, but these procedures are time-consuming. If we are able to increase efficiency of traffic enforcement, we will have more manpower to deal with emergency situations. We hope that after the legislative amendments, we will be able to release the clerical staff at headquarters or different police stations. And deploy these staff to other projects. More importantly, we'd like to foster a better driving attitude amongst drivers. On the other hand, large-scale companies may have to manage fleets, and through the legislative amendments, these companies may be able to better manage the driving attitude of the drivers of their fleets and intervene in a timely manner to ensure road safety. Also, this is the first step towards implementing the Hong Kong Smart City Blueprint. We hope that through the legislative amendments, we'll be able to provide more convenient and transparent public services. Drivers and vehicle owners will be provided with more means to settle their penalty payment or dispute their liability for the relevant contravention or offenses. In the future, we will roll out an official website. Vehicle owners and drivers will be able to inspect the photos captured by our frontline police officers, and they can decide whether to dispute liability or settle the penalty payment. This will also help them discharge their liability. As mentioned, there will be different electronic payment methods available. As opposed to the traditional ones. Information about the contravention and offenses concerned will be uploaded online, and then we can reply to any public inquiries in a timely manner. We will also be able to largely reduce the amount of paper used, and then we can better promote paperless traffic enforcement. As we digitalize the traffic enforcement procedure, we'll be able to redeploy the manpower to support other system operations and other police duties. That's all for my sharing. Thank you. I now invite members to raise questions concerning the policy as well as the proposed legislative amendments. I'll give 5 minutes to each member. Before you raise your questions, I'd like to ask members whether we want to invite the public to raise their views. If we do want to have a public hearing, then we will have to publish the notice online. Yes, Mr. Frankie Yik, I agree that there should be a public hearing. All right, I will ask the Secretariat to make the relevant arrangements. let's see if we'll be able to hold the public hearing at the beginning of next month. I will ask the Secretariat to publish a notice online and invite public to attend the hearing. I'll also write to the representatives of the district councils of all 18 districts. Members who've pressed the button to speak include Dr. Johnny, Mr. Chen Xiu-hong, Mr. Lim Chun-sing, Mr. Frankie Yik, Mr. Dennis Leung, Mr. Lai Tong Kwok, Mr. Edward Leung, Mr. Gary Zhang, and myself. Dr. Johnny issuing FPNs through electronic means is the major trend under the digital era. I'd like to have a better idea of the relevant figures and statistics. After automating the enforcement procedure, how much paper will be saved every year? Also, how much manpower will be saved in terms of handling the paper FPNs? That's my first question. Secondly, it is mentioned in the government papers that the police will set up a mobile app and the police will notify the offenders through electronic means. Well, quite a lot of elderly people encounter difficulties with using smartphones. Also, a lot of the drivers who make a living through driving, they are also less tech savvy. I want to know what measures will be put in place to provide convenience to the elderly people. Also, will there be measures to prevent elderly people from falling victim to scams? Thank you. Mr. Mack. Thank you, Chairman. I thank Dr. Johnny for the questions. For the figures and statistics, I will invite the police to tell you more. Every year, we'll be able to save for 247 million of cost. We have clerical staff at the back end to deal with paper FPNs, so we'll be able to save manpower after the bill is passed. Also, we'll be able to enhance efficiency of traffic enforcement. We'll also be able to save the cost on printing out paper. We'll also be able to save paper used for the FPNs. We attach importance to allowing people to be adapted to traffic e-enforcement. We have taken into consideration elderly people. Currently, we issue SMS. So for those who do not use smartphones will also receive SMS. We do not use the MMS. So after issuing the SMS, with the information included in the SMS, including the number of the fixed penalty ticket, people can go to the post office to settle the penalty payment. The police will also, by phases, roll out traffic e-enforcement to see how people adapt to it. In the first phase, we'll have electronic penalty payment for Form 1. For Form 2, we will deliver them by post to see how people adapt to it. Lastly, we'll set up hotline services. People can make inquiries in relation to verifying whether the penalty tickets they get are authentic or not. Be it an email or an SMS, there won't be a hyperlink attached for people to settle payment. The police will step up publicity to educate the public in this regard. I'll ask the police to elaborate more. Thank you.
Mr. Yao, thank you for your question. We have made some rough calculations, and in Annex D, paragraph 5, the details are set out. There are two types of forms for fixed penalty notices. About 3 million of such notices were issued per year on average. So how much time can be saved after implementation of traffic e-enforcement? After taking into account all the factors, we mentioned that $230 million can be saved approximately. That have accounted, well, the figure has taken into account the paper saved and the staff cost saved. That is a rough calculation because, as Mr. Mack said, we have to look at how well people adapt to the system. During the initial stage of implementation, we will still issue paper-based penalty notices. The eFPN will be sent in parallel with the paper-based penalty notices so that people get used to the system better. As for elderly drivers or owners, as mentioned by Mr. Mack as well, when we've rolled out the thematic portal and mobile applications, we will put in place a very comprehensive publicity campaign, including a hotline for members of the public to make inquiries so that we can assist them. We will not attach any hyperlink to the SMS or emails that we send so that people will not fall victim to scams. And when members of the public enter the thematic portal or mobile applications, they have to access it through the IM Smart mobile application. By accessing the portal and application through IM Smart, members of the public will not have to log in to the system again and memorize any passwords. Thank you. Mr. Chan Xiu-hong. Thank you, Chairman. The government is making use of technology by issuing eFPNs to enhance efficiency and accuracy of traffic enforcement. I support that. But I think that people are worried about the failure of different systems, including Smart Play and Hong Kong e-toll. With the prevalence of online scam, people are worried while they support the digitalization of public services. So I think that the government should test out the system thoroughly and do publicity when they are rolling out this traffic e-enforcement system. So I'm looking at the enforcement details. The ordinance will allow the police to issue eFPN while retaining the practice of paper-based penalty notices. Deputy Secretary mentioned that the system will be put in place by phases. Under current practices for illegal parking, a paper-based FPN will be fixed on the vehicles. I wonder when you will stop doing that. So when police officers or traffic wardens are taking enforcement action, say for speeding, how will you do it? Because no paper-based FPNs will be issued. For SMS or emails, I sometimes don't receive it, depending on the strength of the signal. Sometimes I receive an SMS only after it's been sent for a few days. Now I can see that a paper-based FPN is fixed onto my vehicle so that I know that I was subject to contraventions. For drivers or owners on the mainland, they have to go on to a website to check if there is any contraventions that they have committed online very frequently. And I think that is rather inconvenient. And sometimes the emails will fall into the scam bin in our inbox. In the administration's paper, it says that the Commissioner of Transport can ask members of the public to provide proof for their SMS address or mobile phone address and email address. How do I provide proof for my mobile phone numbers? Should I call the number on the SMS like what we did with the Leave Home Safe application? Thank you. Deputy Secretary. Thank you. We will make sure that we will do publicity on, for example, anti-deception. Together with the OGO, we will promulgate a guidelines and we will conduct stress tests on the system in accordance with the prevailing guidelines under the OGO. As for implementation and the details of the transitional arrangement, I will invite my colleagues from the police to talk about that. As for SMS, within a few minutes of issuance of EFPN, the drivers or owners will be able to receive the SMS in relation to that traffic contraventions or offense. We've talked to the developers of the system, and we know that the message can be sent within a few seconds, and a one-time passcode will be sent to members of the public when they access the IM Smart application. When we verified the email and the phone number, members of the public can access the website and the application by making use of their personal information. As for the transitional arrangement, I will invite the police to talk about that. Mr. Yao, please. Thank you for your question. We are concerned about the capacity of our traffic enforcement thematic website. That is why we have conducted a stress test, and we ask the developer to enhance the capacity of the portal. And we also put in place requirements as for the time limit of repair when there is emergency situation, so that SMS and emails of EFPN can be sent in a timely manner. As for the transitional arrangement, not everything can be digitalized instantly after passage of the bill. Why is that? As mentioned, for illegal parking, the person liable is the vehicle owner. When the vehicle owner renew their vehicle license once every 12 months or 4 months prior to the expiry date, The Commissioner of Transport can be empowered to collect phone numbers and emails from the vehicle owners. 16 months will be involved because after the ordinance comes into effect, only the information provided after passage of the bill submitted can be retained. As for speeding and other traffic contraventions, the person liable is the driver of the vehicle. But driver will only have to renew their driving license once every 10 years. And is unable for us to issue any e-notices to the drivers asking them to provide relevant information. But as for the issues with SMS and mobile phone numbers, perhaps our colleagues from the Transport Department can supplement, because we need them to prove if the phone number is registered under real name. As for junk mail issue, that is a real problem. We hope that when the driver or owner are providing their email to the Transport Department, they can make sure that the email sent by the government will not go into the junk mail box. As we all know, after a certain time after issuance of Form 1, if the payment is not paid, Form 2 will be issued to remind them to make the payment. Mr. Lam Chen Sing, thank you. As for EFPN, this is a step forward on the road to for the government to become a smart government. We support the direction, but we are concerned about the details. Scammers have a lot of ways to deceive members of the public. So for SMS and emails, the administration said that no hyperlink will be attached to them for members of the public to make payment. For people who never drive or owns a vehicle, they would know that, well, they would know if certain SMS or emails are scam mails. But for drivers and vehicle owners, they may be more easily deceived. A driver may remember having parked illegally outside a restaurant where they've dined in. They may very likely press onto the link. Even if they don't make any payment, then their personal information may still be exposed. So I wonder what ways the police will adopt to enhance monitoring when they receive reports of such deception. Will they step up enforcement? As far as I understand, it's not mandatory for the drivers and owners to provide email or mobile phones to the government. When we roll out the system, we want more people to make use of it. If the police adopts the old way to issue FBNs, then a lot of paperwork will be involved. Is there a KPI, say 1 year after implementation of the system, 50% of the drivers will make use of the portal or EFPN system? How will you incentivize drivers and owners to provide you with their phone numbers or emails Can the police perhaps give out souvenirs to encourage the drivers and owners? I have a question in relation to the legislation. You mentioned that after the driver and owner have changed their phone number and email, they have to inform the transport department within 72 hours. Otherwise, they will be fined $2,000. I believe that the amendment is to align with that of the existing legislation, because currently drivers have to notify the transport department within 72 hours if they change their address. I wonder if there is any case where a driver or owner are penalized for not informing the transport department within 72 hours after changing their address. Most of the time, elderly person does not use their email address, mostly is managed by their children. If the email address is changed by their children and transport department is not informed within 72 hours, will you fine the elderly driver or owner? Does not remembering or forgetting about the change a defense? Thank you.
理事長。
Deputy Secretary. Thank you, Chairman. I thank the member for the questions. On anti-deception, I'll ask the police to elaborate. This is a very important part of the police's work. On email addresses and phone numbers, according to the bill, the vehicle owners and the driving license holders, when they renew their licenses, they will have to provide the e-contact means. Our thought is that we will do this progressively, depending on how people are adapting to this. We'll see how people adapt to receiving e-penalty tickets. Our anticipation is that every year, vehicle owners will have to renew their licenses every year. We believe that within 1 year's time, we'll be able to collect the e-contact means of most vehicle owners. Illegal parking tickets account for 40% of all the penalty tickets issued, and all these tickets are issued to vehicle owners. So we believe that we'll be able to collect the e-contact means of all vehicle owners within a year's time, and will be ready to issue e-penalty tickets. So 80% of the penalty tickets will be issued by electronic means. As mentioned, we'll roll out the system by phases. The first phase is to issue Form 1 by electronic means, and we will then issue Form 2 by electronic means in the second phase. In terms of penalty for those who fail to notify us within 72 hours upon changes of phone numbers and email address, I will ask the Transport Department to give you the information. Normally, we will ask those who fail to notify us for the information over to the police. All right, please provide the relevant figures after the meeting. Mr. Yao. We saw very few people who failed to notify us within 72 hours upon changes of their contact information. We have various means to combat deception. There will be a new dedicated thematic portal. Will people fall victim to scams with this thematic portal? Well, members may be familiar with our work. We are seeing a series of measures rolled out by the police to combat deception cases and frauds. Over the past year, we have done a lot of work. Say in June 2023, the police as well as the HKMA rolled out an intelligence sharing platform. We share information about scams concerning financial institutions. In November, we also set up an anti-deception center with banks. Through the platform, banks provide information to us in relation to scams involving members of the public. Say, banks through this mechanism will be able to intercept the public as they try to transfer money in banks. There is also an alert system on FPS. FPS is a very convenient payment method. However, it can easily be manipulated by people. We also have an 1822 anti-deception hotline. We have received a lot of information provided by the public. To put it simply, as we send out the SMS, well, be it the design of the SMS, that is, we do not include the hyperlink in the SMS, and also as we educate the public, we teach the public how to verify the information. For instance, they can go to the mobile app as well as the thematic portal. They have to log in through the IM Smart mobile app to gain access to the portal and the system. This is to boost public confidence. Mr. Frankie Yik, I have quite a number of questions. Well, we're talking about smart mobility, so I do support the legislative amendment proposal. The administration mentioned that it will continue to collect e-contact means. As we remember, the government had collected relevant information from vehicle owners as it rolled out the e-toll system. So I believe you should have all the information ready for enforcing CAP 237. As for CAP 240, you need personal information of drivers. Was mentioned, what if I get a new driving license a day before the legislation takes effect? It will be 10 years later when I renew the driving license. Will you have to wait for 10 years to get the information from drivers then? Can you, through administrative means, put in place a 3-year transitional period so that all drivers will have to provide their e-contact means within 3 years' time? Also, say I don't get the first SMS, I fail to settle the payment, I will get Form 2 as a reminder. You mentioned that in Phase 1, you'll definitely issue Form 2 physically. So there shouldn't be any blunders, right? Also, on the point about notifying TD within 72 hours upon changes of e-contact means, well, I hope TD can adjust this measure. Oftentimes we see, say, 4-day long weekend. If I get an FPN before the long weekend, I won't be able to notify TD within 72 hours. Can you extend the time frame? Otherwise, it's not going to work. Thank you. Mr. Yao, I thank Mr. Yik for the questions. On collecting e-contact means, when we rolled out the e-toll system, we amended the legislations for vehicle owners. we had to collect the e-contact means of vehicle owners so that they can settle the payment online. So we did amend the legislations. This time around, we target not only vehicle owners, but also driving license holders. We have to collect e-contact means of driving license holders as well. So we're covering more people in this regard. Also, as we rolled out the e-toll system, we collected the information because we wanted to make sure people will pay their tolls. However, in this proposal, it's for settling the penalty payment. People may use a different payment method. So, according to the bill, we expect that we will have to spend a year's time to collect the information so that we can get the e-contact means as people come to renew their licenses. Chairman, I get that. If you have to amend the legislation every time you change the rules, that will be troublesome. Can DOJ think about how to streamline the procedure? Otherwise, every time you change the rules, you have to amend the legislation. I understand that there is an app known as I Am Smart, right? And you can contact people through the information provided on I Am Smart. People are allowed to change the information on I Am Smart. Now you're asking people to notify you within a certain period of time upon changes of their contact information. Why don't you collect all the information through I Am Smart? Then you won't have to impose penalty on people for those who fail to provide the information within 72 hours. Well, DOJ, is it the case that we have to impose penalty on people who fail to provide the changes within 72 hours? The relevant departments and OGCIO are working to upgrade the I Am Smart platform. The target is to consolidate different platforms and websites of different government departments and bureaus to ensure that there can be a one-stop portal. The Transport and Logistics Bureau, as well as the police force, will work towards that. We have been thinking of ways to provide more convenience to the public to ensure that there is a one-stop portal for the public. On the point about 72 hours, of course we will consider to look into it. Currently, the Transport Department is working to collect residential addresses of people, and the department allows people to provide the information online within 72 hours. On the point about Form 2, well, at the beginning we will continue to issue paper-based Form 2. Form 1 will be issued by electronic means in the first phase, and Form 2 will be in paper form in the first phase. And Mr. Yik mentioned that a driving license holder will have to wait for 10 years to provide their contact means. We are aware of it. We will step up publicity. We are thinking of issuing letters to the public to remind people to provide their e-contact means. According to the law, we have to ask people to renew their driving license once every 10 years, so we cannot through administrative means change it to 3 years. Some people may apply for international driving licenses. We also ask these people to provide their e-contact means.
If that's the case, then we will have to wait 10 years for the vehicle license holders to provide their e-contact means. And I think that this goes against the entire principle of digitalization. Anything to add? Chairman, we will look at how people get used to the system, and we will do publicity to encourage members of the public to submit their e-contact means. EFPN actually makes it more convenient for people to settle payment, and they will be notified of any contraventions or offenses that they've committed more quickly. Drivers or vehicle owners can also check the FPNs or photos on our portal, which make things even more convenient for members of the public, and we also have e-payment means. All these things will encourage members of the public to participate in the traffic e-enforcement system. We will ask people to provide their e-contact means as soon as possible. The benefits of such a system is very clear. Mr. Dennis Lang. Thank you, Chairman. I have to declare interest. I have a relative who is a police officer, and I used to be a police officer myself. Now that government is going paperless, I hope that we can shorten the transitional period. It will make things difficult for frontline officers because during the transitional period, the officers will have to issue paper form FPN and the eFPN in parallel. If the transitional period is too long, that is not ideal. I hope that we can compress the relevant period, and I hope that the government can collect mobile phone numbers and emails from members of the public more quickly, say within 1 or 2 months, mandating the drivers or vehicle owners to submit relevant information to the Transport Department. After collecting the relevant information, it will be easier for the government to do digitalization. The vehicle owners and license holders will be receiving emails or SMS. Perhaps they can set the email address of the Transport Department or relevant bureau as whitelists so that they can receive Form 1 and Form 2 more easily so that they will not fall into junk mailbox. As for motorcycle drivers, they are the owners, but as for commercial vehicles, employment is involved. For some kind of offenses, the person liable is the driver instead of the owner. So when you're issuing the FPN, will you send it to both the vehicle owners and drivers? In March 2021, in the panel on transport, when the government explained this traffic e-enforcement system, it was estimated that in Q1 2023, the portal will be implemented, and in early 2024, the system will be enforced. Now, the entire timetable has been delayed for 1 entire year. So I would like to ask about the progress. Is the thematic portal ready? Thank you. Mr. Mack. Thank you, Chairman. As for the issues with the transitional period, We will try to come up with ways to encourage members of the public to provide their e-contact means. Mr. Leung gave us a very good suggestion. Perhaps we can write to members of the public to ask them to provide us with their e-contact means. We will look into that, definitely. As for the commercial vehicle drivers, how do they receive the EFPN? I will invite our colleagues from the police to elaborate on that. As for the thematic portal, what is the progress of our preparation and when will it come into operation? I will also invite the police to supplement. We spent more time than expected when we were drafting the bill. That is why there is such a delay. Would the police please supplement? Mr. Yao, thank you for your question. About commercial vehicle drivers. The owner of the commercial vehicles could be a company, and they are liable to certain contraventions or offenses as well. On our thematic portal and mobile applications, we allow the vehicle owners to assign certain agents, it could be their drivers, to settle penalty payments. So if a owner of the vehicle employs 3 drivers, then all drivers can be notified of the traffic contraventions. We have considered that when we were drafting the bill. As for the progress for preparation of the thematic portal and the mobile application, we are at the final stage of it, and we are testing out some of the functions of the portal. We would like to take into account the views of the members of the public and the stakeholders. So that is why we have set aside some time to prepare the portal so that we can incorporate your views. So that's the stage we're at. After passage of the bill, we are confident that within 2024, the thematic portal can be rolled out. Mr. Lai Tong-kok. Thank you, Chairman. I would like to ask about the policy objective of the amendment. Will all paper-based FPN be replaced by eFPNs? Thank you. Mr. Mack, yes, to implement this smart city initiatives and to go green, our ultimate objective is to replace all paper penalty tickets and go paperless in issuance of penalty tickets. But when we are enforcing the law, we need to take into account how people will get used to this system, so we will do it face by face. The paper-based FPN will be retained because it will be used during the transitional period, and that will serve as a backup plan. Thank you. So that will give rise to another problem, which has been discussed or raised by other members. You need to collect mobile phone numbers and email, that is e-contact means, from vehicle owners or vehicle license holders. home phone number cannot be used to receive SMS. So I can either receive EFPN or a paper penalty tickets from the police. So as a vehicle owner or driver, I cannot choose which form I would like to receive the notice in. If I don't want to receive any notices, I can do that by refusing to provide you with any e-contact means. If I give you my home phone number, then I would not be able to receive any SMS. Eventually, the police will only be able to, or the transport department can only send me any penalty tickets in paper or by post. If the owner or driver does not look at their emails at all, then there's no way for them to be notified of the contraventions or offenses. If the owner or driver are unaware of the penalty notices, then you will send a Form 2 to them, and that will be beneficial to the drivers or owners because they can delay their payment. Thank you. The vehicle license should be renewed once every year. As for driving license, unless the drivers reach the age of 70, they should renew it once every 10 years. When they renew the licenses, the drivers or owners have to provide the transport department with e-contact means. Chairman, is there a requirement in the law that they must provide you with the e-contact means? Because in the Blue Bill, you mentioned that if there is any change to the address, the owners or drivers have to inform you within 72 hours. The most important thing that we should focus on is if there is such a requirement. What if I tell you that I don't have an email address or mobile phone number? Will you create one for them? Chairman, we have set out in the laws that the owners and drivers have to submit the e-contact means before their licenses can be renewed. We also stated in the laws that they have to provide a mobile phone number where the person concerned can be reached. We will send out one-time passcode to the drivers or owners, and that has to be verified before the transport department accept the mobile phone number as the e-contact means as stated in the laws. I would like to clarify. So the drivers or owners have to at least provide you with a telephone number that can receive SMS before they can renew their licenses, correct? Yes, either phone number or email. Mr. Yao, perhaps I supplement. There could be a case where the driver or owner provide the transport department with a false email address or phone number. Under Cap 374, it sets out that if the drivers or owners submit false phone number or address to the transport department, they are liable to a fine of $5,000 or imprisonment of 6 months. That serves as a deterrent.
Hey.
Mr. Edward Leung. Thank you, Chairman. Who gets the FPN will be the one paying the penalty. Working drivers or those who make a living through driving, sometimes when they go get food or they load and unload goods, they have to park their vehicles illegally. And they will get their bonuses deducted by their employers because they make such a mistake. For these drivers, can we consider sending the SMS to the agents instead of the drivers? If after 21 days the penalty payment is not settled, then you issue the SMS notice to the vehicle owner. These vehicle owners or drivers, they do not earn a lot. If they have to pay the penalty often, they will end up making very little money. Mr. Mack. I thank Mr. Leung for the questions. I'll ask the police to elaborate later. For driving licenses that fall under Cap 240, we issue the penalty tickets to the drivers. According to Cap 237, for illegal parking, it is the vehicle owner who is liable for illegal parking. So according to the law, we issue penalty tickets to the vehicle owners in these cases. Mr. Yao, we can look at it from two perspectives. From the vehicle owner or driver's perspective, for offenses under Cap 240, if we aren't able to intercept the driver concerned on site, the driver's employer will receive the Section 63 notice to provide information of the driver. Depending on the offenses, the vehicle owner will know. Well, member mentioned about illegal parking. For illegal parking, the penalty ticket can be issued to the driver in person immediately. To ensure road safety, our view is that working drivers should pay attention to their driving attitude and abide by the prevailing traffic rules and regulations. Thank you. Mr. Gary Dunn. Thank you, Chairman. First question concerns the registration of phone number and email addresses. Some members mentioned that we only get to renew our driving license once every 10 years. This is required under the law. But in practice, the administration will have to depend on the drivers to provide their e-contact means. Otherwise, it will have to wait for a long time to collect the e-contact means. Apart from stepping up publicity, can the administration make the registration procedure easier to speed up the process of collecting the e-contact means? In the future, there will be a system, there will be a thematic portal. Well, I believe there are a lot of IM Smart users. IM Smart users have to fill out forms online, and when they fill out the forms, they have to provide their telephone numbers as well as email addresses. Say, I am yet to renew my driving license, but I am notified through IM Smart that I'll have to provide my e-contact means to the transport department. Can you not wait until drivers to renew their driving licenses to collect their e-contact means? This is something the administration has to look into. Also, I believe more and more people will use IM Smart, as we can tell from the statistics. The reminders and notifications can perhaps be issued through the IM Smart platform. We're about to pay our taxes, and we often get reminders from IM Smart. However, we do not get reminders from other government departments or bureaus through IM Smart. Can we get all these different reminders through the one-stop IM Smart platform so that we can deal with it through one single platform? On another note, I understand that there will be a transitional period. We'll see paper-based form as well as electronic form at the same time during the first phase. I understand that you will ask the drivers concerned to reply to you within a certain period of time. People will be getting Form 1 and Form 2 at different stage. We give a time frame according to the time you send out the paper-based form instead of the electronic form for people to reply to you? I see that under the bill there is a certain part about official vehicles or vehicles in public service. Why do you have a separate part about circumstances involving vehicles in public service? Mr. Mack, I thank Mr. Zhang for the questions. On arrangements for collecting phone numbers, we will streamline the procedure as much as possible. People are allowed to renew their driving licenses online. To make sure that your phone number can get the SMS we send out, we will issue the one-time passcode. So people can finish the application through their phone instead of going to our offices in person. I thank members for their comments and suggestions on consolidating IM Smart with other websites and platforms. We are doing that to ensure that we can realize the one-stop portal. Also, we will try our best to streamline all procedures. It's a very good suggestion that we can perhaps issue reminders or notices through the IM Smart platform or ask people to provide their e-contact means through IM Smart. We'll look into it and discuss it with the relevant departments. On the point about 63 section notices, I'll ask the police to elaborate. And on the point about official vehicles, we have the relevant legislations or provisions proposed under the bill because we have to adapt the provisions. For penalty tickets issued for illegal parking, it is the vehicle owner that is liable for that. This has been the case since 1997. So we have a separate provision or part dedicated to that. When we come to the clause-to-clause examination, we'll elaborate. Mr. Yao, on the point about Section 63 notices, as mentioned, we're going to roll out traffic e-enforcement by phases. As said, we have Form 1 and Form 2. We also have Section 63 notice. The original copy and the copy of Section 63 notice, we have to be careful with how we handle them. during the transitional period, we will continue to stick to the physical copy of the Section 63 notice so that people have time to adapt to the changes. It's just that we also have electronic copies for Section 63 notices. Mr. Dominic Lee. Thank you, Chairman. I support the use of technology to provide more convenience to the public. In the past, the government tried to roll out e-initiatives. For instance, Smart Play was one of them. The morning when Smart Play was rolled out, it was paralyzed. Also, during the district council election, the system malfunctioned, and a lot of people complained about it. Now, you mentioned that you will carry out stress tests for the new system and that you will ensure that there is access capacity of the system. We get the same answer every time the administration rolls out a new e-initiative. I understand you will remind the supplier to be aware of this. Who will be the supplier? Also, do you have any backup plans in case of any incidents? Every time when incidents happen, the administration tells us that they will investigate. No one was held accountable. What happens if we see problems with the e-enforcement system? What is the division of work among different government departments? Mr. Mack, I'll ask the police to take the question. Mr. Yao. For the police force, this is a very significant system. It will change the way we handle penalty tickets. The way we enforce the law will not change, but it will change the way we issue fixed penalty tickets. We will automate and digitalize the enforcement procedure. We won't just do the stress test. We are aware of the incidents that took place in the past. We have an IT department within the police force which supports all the IT systems of the police. So there will be additional support provided to us internally. For the thematic portal and the mobile app to be rolled out. We're in the last stage of rolling out the system. We are trying our best to upgrade the system and optimize it. The thematic portal and the mobile app will have different functions. As for the name of the supplier, I don't have it here, but we engage the supplier through the government's procurement procedure. Who will be held accountable if incidents take place? On accountability, well, it depends on what kind of incidents we see. Is it a human error? Is it a computer glitch? Is it a communication problem? Is it because the user is not familiar with the system? Is it because of power supply? Is it not the thematic portal that sees glitches, but it is a problem with the telecommunication network? I think it really depends on the situation.
官員，
Ms. Doreen Kong. Thank you, Chairman. I have one comment to make about the prerequisite for this bill. if we are to implement e-enforcement, we need the members of the public to cooperate. We need to collect the email address and mobile phone numbers of them. Mr. Lai will follow up on the issues with mobile phone number. We need all these prerequisites before we can implement the bill and the e-enforcement system. After listening to all these questions put, I am given the impression that the government is trying to enforce the bill before collecting all the information required. I think that the government is trying to implement the bill before fulfilling all the prerequisites or having all the prerequisites. When this is the case, we will be faced with challenges when we're implementing the e-enforcement system. As for lease registration, we've been doing it for decades. But despite the laws, the lease registration could not be implemented very smoothly. That's my view. Second, I do not object to the government going paperless. We have to create a smart city. In the future, through I Am Smart, I will be able to receive the e-penalty notices so that I don't have to check other platforms. I would support that. But now, with the amendment bill, we will have to first go on to the portal to check the notices. Well, the police will have to upload the notice onto the platform and then send the e-notification to members of the public. I will have to go onto the platform to check the fine to see whether it's $320 or $350. The administration said that the amount on the platform is the final one. Another question. Not all drivers can have easy access to your platform. What about taxi drivers or commercial vehicle drivers? Do they have to check your portal every night after they finish with their work? Thank you. Mr. Mack. About the issuance of e-penalty notices on the platform and the SMS or email notifications, I will invite the police to talk about that. The paper-based penalty tickets are very long, and we have to issue a large amount of that to members of the public. Because the information contained is quite substantial, that is why we have to separate the notice into two. We send the short notice through SMS, and the long form will be on the portal. Because the long form will only be uploaded onto the portal, that is why we take the form on the portal as the final one. I will ask the police to elaborate on that. About the issues with prerequisite, The Hong Kong e-toll already has the information of the drivers or vehicle owners. Most drivers have got the vehicle tags. I understand that members of the public are getting used to all e-transport or e-traffic measures. Through publicity and education, we will try to educate members of the public and perhaps work with the Hong Kong e-toll so that they adapt to the e-penalty tickets more quickly. Mr. Yao. The content in the email come from the information put in by the frontline officers. The frontline officers will print a physical FPN and the information will be uploaded onto our portal through the mobile application in the mobile phone of the frontline officers. The format of the form will be the same as the physical form or tickets fixed on the vehicle. The content of the email will be the same as that printed on the physical FPN. As for SMS, we will only include the most essential information, including the notice numbers, the registration mark, the contraventions, and the inquiry number. That is an extra reminder for the owners or drivers. Thank you. This is an extra reminder under the prevailing system. Mr. Lee, Chen Kan, thank you. I concern about traffic enforcement because I'm a driver myself. When we were rolling out the time varying toll plan and the Hong Kong e-toll, some of my friends received SMS saying that they did not make toll payment, but turned out those messages were scam messages. I would like to know how the police can cope with this issue. You mentioned that you will have a thematic portal and an official mobile application. Can the members of the public check their messages against these portals and applications so that they can verify if the information is correct? We have so many applications for driving, including parking meters. We have Hong Kong e-toll application, I Am Smart, and e-mobility and so on. When can you consolidate all these applications so that we can look at perhaps the real-time toll information on I Am Smart? With so many applications, if tourists come to rent a vehicles to drive in Hong Kong, how many applications do they have to download? As for SMS and emails, I agree with what Mr. Lai said. We have a lot of elderly drivers. They have an email address, but they don't use it and they don't even remember it themselves. Sometimes the salesperson who sold them the mobile phone set up those email address for them. As for mobile phone numbers, for SIM cards, some people use it and they change their numbers once every few months. Will you do real-time verification? Sometimes we receive message asking us to verify our mobile number when we register our mobile phone number online. Will you do that? About backup mobile phone number, can you ask the members of the public to include a backup number of their relatives or family members? A lot of people receive FPNs very frequently. Perhaps the police is stepping up their enforcement action. So how frequent do you issue fixed penalty notices? Because some people are issued with FPNs 1 or 2 or 3 times every hour. Thank you. Mr. Mack, about the consolidation of mobile applications, this is what we concern about as well. We need to make it convenient for people so that they can receive e-penalty tickets instantly. So that is why we mentioned that we will work with the OGO. They said that they are consolidating the applications of different departments to the IM Smart platform. By that, we can issue information to members of the public through IM Smart. By the end of this month, the time-varying toll information will be included in the IM Smart application. As for mobile phone numbers, if people register with us their phone numbers, we need a one-time verification before the phone numbers will be accepted as an e-contact means under the law. So the members of the public will have to verify their phone numbers with the one-time password before they can renew their licenses with the Transport Department. As for the issuance of FPN with illegal parkings, perhaps I will invite Mr. Yao to supplement. Thank you for your question. Well, your question has to do with the implementation of traffic enforcement. Under the traffic laws, we have a lot of offenses and contraventions. We do not implement each and every provisions, because if that's the case, I think that the members of the public will not accept that. Every year, the Commissioner of Police will issue a priority action agenda for traffic enforcement. And they will set out important traffic enforcement plan in each and every year, having regard the situation with traffic accidents and congestions. We change the priority enforcement every year. We inform the members of the public where we will focus our enforcement action on. And we will promulgate the selected traffic enforcement priorities. Those priorities will include driving while using mobile phones, and that may give rise to serious traffic accidents, drunk driving, traffic congestions. Mr. Yao, please do not give any more example. We have limited time. Mr. Mr. Chan Kok-fong. Thank you, Chairman. I have 3 major questions. After implementation of the e-enforcement system, we will need less manpower. Comparing the accuracy of issuing physical FPN and e-penalty tickets, can you give us some information? I understand that there is some human errors with manual input of FPNs. Also, I would like to ask about the effectiveness or cost effectiveness in terms of manpower. How much manpower can be saved with the implementation of traffic e-enforcement system. I've looked it up online that you will only issue another FPN after issuing the first one 30 minutes. So when members of the public see a FPN has been fixed onto their vehicle just the minute before they will leave, and because another FPN will not be issued within 30 minutes, that will lead to members of the public parking their cars illegally for an even longer time because they don't have to go to their vehicles to check if there is an FPN. They can receive it via their mobile phones. If they receive an SMS on their mobile phone saying that their car is illegally parked, they would stay at the restaurant even longer and not drive their cars away. If members of the public cannot receive the SMS, will it affect their enforcement? Thank you.
Mr. Yao. On manpower, I refer members to Annex D of the paper, paragraph 5. It is roughly estimated that every year we'll be able to save $230 million. This includes costs saved on printing and the amount of time that will be required to issue an FPN, as well as the salary of the staff. That's the first question. Secondly, after we issue an FPN, the vehicle owner or the driver concerned should immediately deal with the vehicle. If our officers conduct patrol in the same area and find that the same vehicle is still there, we will tow away the vehicle. So there won't be a case where drivers or vehicle owners will be given more room or indulgence to remove their vehicles if they get an FPN. For those who fail to get an SMS or email address, well, as mentioned, we will have a paper-based FPN as well as an electronic FPN. The electronic FPN will be uploaded online. Say for the first notice, the person concerned fails to get the electronic or physical version of the FPN, and then a Form 2 will be issued, which will be in a physical form. So there will be double reminders served to offenders. I understand that you will digitalize the entire enforcement procedure. If you digitalize everything, there may be cases where people fail to get the digital version of both forms, then the person concerned will have to go to the court. It will cost the person a lot of money and time. How will you handle such situations? Mr. Yao. For the first form, that is Form 1, after we digitalize the entire enforcement procedure, the person may fail to get the electronic version. Well, we will issue Form 2 through electronic means, and if the person fails to get both forms, the person may come up with a defense when he gets to the court. Say the person ignores both forms and the person will get a court order. The court will ask the person to pay a fee. Apart from $320, a court fee will be imposed, which will be $400. So 320 times 2 plus $400 of court fee. And if the person still fails to settle the payment, the person will get a summons and he will have to attend a court proceeding. Of course, the person can come up with a defense to the court and tell the court why he had failed to receive the penalty tickets. Currently, vehicle owners or drivers may notify us by phone on why they could not handle the forms or payment. Now it's my turn. I think digitalizing enforcement is actually beneficial to drivers or vehicle owners. Say they may lose their penalty tickets and they want to settle the payment. Currently, they'll have to wait for Form 2 if they lose Form 1. So if they get an SMS, they can easily go to an ATM to settle the payment. So there is an advantage to the e-enforcement system. Of course, we have to take into consideration whether more convenience can be provided. Some members mentioned about IM Smart. Be it IM Smart or the Transport Department, they should have all the information they require. When we talked about the e-toll system, some asked whether it is possible to switch from auto toll to the e-toll system. The answer was negative. When I register for a vehicle, I already provide my information and contact methods. How come you cannot make use of all this information? Why don't you directly get the information from IM Smart platform, and if the person does not agree, then he can tell the government? Would it be feasible if the government does so? Thirdly, on SMS, will the offenders get the SMS for sure? Say a person is holding a phone and he has traveled to the mainland or somewhere overseas. Will he be able to get the SMS when he returns to Hong Kong? Will the telecommunication service provider send the SMS to the person again? If we fail to get the SMS, say a person has switched off the phone or has got offline, it could perhaps become a defense for the person. If the person wasn't in Hong Kong when he got the SMS, how would you handle such situations? Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. As mentioned, we will think of ways to encourage members of the public to provide their e-contact means. Chairman, you mentioned or you made a suggestion. You asked whether a person can pass the information from the e-toll system to the e-enforcement system directly. Well, we'll look into it. We look at information from the two systems separately currently as we draft the bill. However, we will study the possibility of it. According to my personal experience, while I'm abroad, I still get SMS or messages from Hong Kong. More importantly, as people provide their e-contact means, we send out a one-time passcode to verify whether the devices that the person is holding can receive SMS. Mr. Yao, on the question about SMS, well, I'm not an expert in this area. I may not be able to make a very accurate judgment. In Hong Kong, we have telecommunication service providers providing services for people to different areas. I used to work in the New Territories, and there are areas where we do not get signals. So I may have to consult experts on this and get back to you later. Say, some people may go hiking in Sai Kung, and they park their vehicles somewhere in Sai Kung, and they fail to get signals. Then they won't be able to get the SMS. Can this be a defense? Perhaps when we get to the clause-by-clause examination, you'll be able to provide an answer to that. I will extend the meeting as some members press the button to speak for a second round. I'll extend the meeting by 15 minutes, and 3 minutes will be given to each member for the second round. Mr. Chen Xiu-hong, Mr. Frankie Yik, Mr. Dennis Leung, Mr. Lai Tong Kwok, and Ms. Doreen Kong. Mr. Chen Xiu-hong. Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to follow up on the question about the reliability of sending SMS to offenders. If people fail to get SMS, they may get into trouble. Secondly, we're all concerned how we can go paperless completely. Some members mentioned about I Am Smart. There is a data interchange mechanism under I Am Smart. I'm not sure if this is applicable to the e-enforcement system. Maybe you can look into that. Thirdly, Mr. Lai Tong Kwok mentioned about zombie email accounts. Some vehicle owners, when they made the registration, they may provide a zombie account. And they fail to get SMS or email addresses through these zombie accounts. I want to know whether it makes a difference for those who fail to settle the payment within 21 days or within a month. Also, for those drivers who travel to the mainland, will they be subject to the same e-enforcement procedure? Thank you. Mr. Mack. On reliability of SMS, we will continue to liaise with the relevant departments to make sure that the SMS system would work. Chairman? I think vehicle owners or drivers should be allowed to provide more than one e-contact means in case they fail to get the notices. On the point about I Am Smart, we will talk to the OGCIO. On email addresses, when people provide their email addresses, we will verify whether the email accounts work. On those cross-boundary drivers, we're mainly talking about vehicles traveling between Hong Kong and Macau and Hong Kong and mainland. For these drivers, they have to apply for an international license, and when they apply for such license, they have to provide a Hong Kong address. For drivers who come to us with an international license, and if they get intercepted on site, we can ask the driver concerned for an international address. In the future, we will ask for email addresses and phone numbers. Well, time is limited. Can Mr. Yao give us a brief answer on verification?
咁
The Transport Department should be responsible for verification, correct? Does the Transport Department have anything to add? You need verification before the phone number and address or email address can be used, correct? If you have any further information, please give us that. Thank you. Mr. Frankie Yik. Thank you, Chairman. For a commercial vehicle like taxi, the problems could be even more complex because agents, drivers, a lot of parties are involved. I understand that you will have a system to connect all these parties. Some vehicle owners don't know to whom the vehicles is leased to. Sometimes the vehicle drivers may not be able to make a penalty payment in time and the owners may suffer. Perhaps we can deal with that in the public hearing. You will provide a QR code to drivers so that they can scan the code to check if there is any contraventions. What if the taxi is stolen when the driver is out playing mahjong? And if the stolen taxi is being illegally parked, what happens? Can you provide a lock-in, lock-out system for the drivers? Mr. Yao, please. Thank you, Mr. Yik. You brought up this problem when we met previously. We will definitely look into that. We have a thematic portal and mobile application. We're still designing that, and there is still room for improvement. After hearing your view and the views of the stakeholders, we will incorporate all these suggestions. The taxi trade, well, you mentioned in your paper that the time limit for penalty payment is 21 days. That will not be changed. The trade is worried if the time limit will be shortened. Now it will not change, so there's no problem with that. As for Hong Kong e-toll, the commercial vehicle drivers can scan the QR code to check the toll. The trade asks if you can consolidate the QR code so that they can just scan one code and get all the information, including the toll and the contravention information. We note review, we are discussing that internally. So if you have any update, please let us know in the next meeting. Mr. Dennis Lang. Thank you, Chairman. I would like to ask about the system, because whenever the government rolls out a system, the department will make an independent design, but we already have this IM Smart application. I think that OGO should consolidate all the applications by the departments so that members of the public will not have to provide information to different departments separately. That will hinder our digitalization. As for Form 1 and Form 2, previously is prescribed under the law, and in the future, the Commissioner of Transport will be able to amend the forms without the scrutiny of the Legislative Council. Can you elaborate on that? As mentioned, some people make use of prepaid SIM cards. If the SIM cards are not topped up, the service will be suspended. And as a result, the users will not be able to receive SMS. Can you talk to the telecommunications companies to see if they can extend the service or perhaps send reminders to the users of the SIM cards so that they top up their values instantly. Lastly, the transitional period is so long. For frontline officers, members of the public, including drivers and vehicle owners, it makes things very difficult for them. Thank you. Mr. Mack? Thank you, Chairman. We will try to shorten the transitional period, and we will try to find ways to encourage members of the public to submit their e-contact means as soon as possible. We will also see how we can talk to the telecommunications companies. Perhaps we can ask them to remind the SIM card users. As for the IM Smart issues, as mentioned, we will work with the OGCIO to see how we can consolidate all the applications of different departments to see if we can release information to members of the public through IM Smart. As for the issues with Form 1 and Form 2, we will specify in the laws that despite them not being the prescribed form under the law, the information on those forms will be specified in the laws, and the Commissioner of Police will publish notice in the Gazette to specify the forms and its formats. Thank you. Mr. Lai Tong Kwok, I would like to follow up on the e-contact means issues. The administration said that the Commissioner of Transport is empowered to collect e-contact means. I just conducted a very quick research. For application of vehicle licenses or driving licenses, if the form is renewed by November 2023, then the driver or owner will have to provide phone number and email address. But for the forms that were issued before November 2023, the owners or drivers will not have to submit any information. If we look at C4707 Part 6, we can see that the government is trying to include SMS and mobile phones and its definition under the law. As for the proposed amendment to Section 63, it says that the police officers can, regarding offenses and contraventions, request for information. Those information include personal particulars, including e-contact means. So I think that the answer given by the police or the government could be wrong because they never mentioned what provisions they rely on to collect information. If you don't have the power to collect information, then the implementation of the bill will be undermined. Thank you. We do have such an information under the Hong Kong e-toll. We are empowered to collect information from the owners under Cap 374. We are to amend the e-contact means under the laws and to repeal it under the sub-legislation and add it back to the main legislation, asking the vehicle owners as well as the drivers to provide their personal particulars. When we're rolling out the Hong Kong e-toll, we have amended the form of the Transport Department asking the drivers and owners to provide personal particulars. That is before November 2023. I think that the provision of such information is mandatory, correct? Yes. So do you have a... Well, can you provide us with a section? Chairman, can you ask them to provide it after the meeting? Thank you. Ms. Doreen Kong, I have two very quick questions. About the consistency of the portal and the mobile application, the administration said that the information will be consistent. If that is the case, why would you say that you will rely on the information on the portal? If you are sure that the information will be consistent, perhaps you don't have to put in such a provision. I looked at the websites of other countries. In Singapore, Malaysia, Canada, India, and Australia, they already have websites informing members of the public about the contraventions that they have committed. How can we prevent any scams from happening? Or phishing scams? Thank you. The police or the Transport and Logistics Bureau? The police, please. Mr. Yao, do you have any ways to combat scams or prevent phishing scams? We will supplement it after the meeting. I think that the administration can consider attaching a number that only the owner or driver recognize in the SMS or emails. It could be a series of numerics. If only the owner or driver can recognize the codes, then they would know that it's not a scam. That is currently the practice of the bank. If we do that, then members of the public are less likely to fall victim to scams. Can you consider it? Okay. That's about time. If there's no other business, then we will adjourn the meeting. We will inform you of the date of the next meeting in due course. Thank you.